Okay, we're going to bring the meeting to order on January 27th. Um, Roll call, Heidi Brooks, here. Brock had informed me that he could not make this evening. David Cunha,
Here.
Teresa Ham,
Here,
Sean McDonald.
Here.
Steve Mello is going to be tardy. Brian O'Hare,
Here.
Steve Taylor, not here. Mary Waite. I see Sophia's name, so I think Mary.
I think
Just
Mary's
here.
driving right now.
Mary, can you just say here?
I think she's driving.
Yes, that's what she said she was doing. All right, so, and then we have Sean, Anthony. How about Corey?
Oh, Cody, no,
Cody, sorry.
he has a Serped meeting tonight.
Okay.
Oh, good.
And Melanie is here. There she is. All right, so we are good to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 of us voting members present. So we should first take a look at the meeting minutes, which Sean did email them to us. So if you could pull up those meeting minutes. The first one would be the December 16th meeting, if you could just review those.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, Terry made a motion to accept. Does anyone second that?
I'll second it, Dave Cunha.
Thank you, Dave. And now I'll go down the list. Heidi Brooks, yes. David Cunha,
Yes.
Terry Ham,
Yes,
Sean McDonald,
Yes.
Brian O'Hare.
Yes.
Okay, Mary Waite.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Excellent.
Yay! Okay.
All right, if people would just take a look at the January 6th meeting minutes.
Heidi, I'll make a motion to accept, but I have a correction for these minutes.
Okay, let's do the correction first.
So where it says on the first page, the committee believes that reducing the town meeting members might make it easier to get a quorum. That is inaccurate. And
Right.
first of all, can I just say thank
Yep.
you for doing the meeting minutes, Melanie, because we really appreciate it. And don't take this as a criticism. It's just, I know I'm not in agreement with that. So I think it has to be rewritten to reflect the conversation somehow.
And I'm not in agreement with it either. Brian O'Hare.
Otherwise, I'm good.
No, I want to say we were concerned about the numbers to have,
How about if we
Valid
just put a period at
representation.
the end of members and remove the rest of the sentence completely?
I didn't understand what you said.
How about putting a period at the end of town meeting members and removing the rest of the sentence from the minutes?
I think you could write the committee had differing opinions on that. That would be, in my opinion, that would more fairly.
and I think the committee still does.
I agree with Terry.
Well, then make a motion and second it.
Make a motion.
And we
A
can do
second.
that.
So I'm sorry, what was the change again? I'm just trying to find it here in the minutes.
It's near the bottom of the first page, Sean, and it says the Secretary of the Commonwealth. So after that, it says the committee believes that reducing the town meeting members might make it easier to get a quorum.
Okay.
See what I mean?
You want to just delete that?
No, I think that it's fair to say that the committee has different opinions on that.
You want to just say the committee discussed reducing the town meeting members, whether it would make it easier for a quorum? Or you just want to?
I don't think the quorum was the issue. It was, trying to think now. Really?
It was
looking
whether-
at the recommended number of what we
240, I think,
was
was
240,
the
the
cap.
recommended number, and we're, 100 plus over that.
I think,
So, can I-
Well, it's Brian O'Hare. I think the issue was, what is the optimum number to reduce potential absenteeism, people leaving, a quorum not evaporating during a meeting?
Why don't you just add the word some in front of the sentence? Because some of us did express, well,
Yes. Can I, this is Mary Wait, can I just ask, I had reached out to ask, we had talked when we brought up the Collins Center. And I know that, I think Brian O'Hare had mentioned, what is the research, around this? And there was some discussion about what other towns, and do we have evidence if we reduce the number? Is this, one of the questions I asked Sean McGinnis kind of in my email was, could we hold this kind of the question about the number, come back to it, Heidi, and maybe have the Collins Center, because they have them, I know we're kind of move them, but just staying with the topic, in terms of that conversation, is it possible to bring, think about this as something the Collins Center can kind of give us advice on? Because we are in disagreement about whether or not to reduce it.
You know what,
So
Mary?
so-
I think you're making this more complicated right now. I'm simply trying to correct minutes. So
Okay.
I make a motion that the minutes be corrected to say, on that sentence,
I think some would work.
some committee members believe that reducing the town meeting members might make it easier to get a quorum. I
Okay.
think that would be sufficient right now, because then we'll come back. And I guess the other thing I'm going to say, Mary, I'm sorry if I interrupted you. I think
No, it's fine.
one of the things I'm feeling in these conversations is that when we come to what is seen as a problem, we get right into trying to solve it. And maybe what we could do instead is stick with the original task, which is just to go through the red line and the grammar and get familiar with what they say, and then put to the side, like you said, that's a good suggestion. This is something that needs more conversation. Let's put it on the side and come back to it later. Then we might be able to get through some of this stuff at the beginning and just
Yep.
kind of move on. That would be my suggestion.
I would agree with that, and I think we had agreed or talked about agreeing to doing something like that by going through the grammar and the redlining and all the other things first, isolating areas like optimum town meeting number for further study after we got through doing the grammatical work. I would agree with Terry.
All right, so on the floor now, we have a change to that one sentence. While we're still looking at the January 6th meeting minutes, does anyone else see anything else?
Still there, Heidi?
I'm hearing no one, so do I have, we have on the floor a motion to accept the amended minutes. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All right, and now going down, Heidi Brooks, yes. Dave Cunha,
yes,
Teresa Ham,
Yes.
Sean McDonald,
Yes.
Brian O'Hare.
Yes.
Steve Taylor, are you with us? No. Mary Wait.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now tonight, our agenda was also sent to us.
Melanie, I made those changes, so you'll see the new file in there, so you don't have to make them.
Thank you.
We're gonna pick up, again, looking at the grammar and redlining that Anthony had provided us previously. We're looking at Article 2, 17, 15, which will end up being the new 14, if I've got my numbering correct. And now I'm just trying to find mine.
Anthony, could I ask you to talk to me like I'm a kindergartner and tell me what this means, this paragraph? What is this referring to? I mean, I understand the grammar, but what is the content? When would this apply to us? You might be muted if you're talking.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now we can.
I wasn't muted. I don't know why. What section are we on?
15,
Section 2,
To what, though?
oh,
Sorry.
last one, 15 or,
It's on referendum procedures. Or if somebody else knows, Sean McDonald, do you know, or Sean McInnes, what is the plain language for this section?
I can't locate my. When was it sent?
okay, hang on. It was from Anthony on November 18th.
A lifetime ago.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time opening it.
Locate,
There, go to the very end.
Section 215.
Mhm. 215A is referendum procedures, effective
one.
date of certain votes suspended.
I got the wrong one.
Again, Anthony's email, November 8th.
I don't even have November 8th.
I will forward it.
Yeah, I only have the 18th. That's Article 1.
Okay, hang on.
I don't know where the heck half my files are. Having 4 different emails just absolutely stinks.
I am sending it,
I only have 3, Sean.
Oh man, I got this one, I got my personal, I got the town, I got work. I got 8 of them. Each different property with a, you know.
So I imagine, well, I mean, you would know, Anthony, but so if there's a referendum that requires a special election, this is the procedure for the election.
Do you have an example of that, Sean McInnes? Do you know?
To referendum.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think about.
So like, is the new clerk, does that fit into this? No?
No, I think, I don't think so.
Is it the marijuana district?
No, that would be part of a town meeting. This would be outside of a town meeting warrant. A referendum, what?
Has it done the town meeting procedures?
Hold on, 215.
the only referendum. was-
Okay,
Override.
referendum. All right. I don't know how many of you remember this, but you remember referendum, Tony?
Yep.
Okay. Town meeting. Town meeting passes something, referendum, Tony would automatically get a referendum against what town meeting passed. This has to do with any kind of an article that town meeting passes can be challenged by a referendum and a vote. And it has to be a special election.
So
Oh,
it
no.
wasn't the police department where the town meeting voted for it, but then by ballot, they voted against it. Remember the building? That's not an example.
No,
that's not a
that's,
referendum.
no, this is like a citizen's referendum where somebody's trying to stop something that was done at town meeting.
Yeah.
That is something that is approved, subject to town meeting.
All right, I don't know. I'm gonna check on something that, let me.
That's fine. That gives me a better idea than what I had. Thank you.
Well, I can probably Maybe if they got it, I don't know.
Sean McDonald, did you get the email with the
Yes,
attachment?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, I sent it to everybody just in case.
No, okay, I didn't think it would.
It's what it's doing is it's saying what these actions we're taking at town meeting don't take effect. Give somebody a chance to file a referendum to challenge
And his name has to be Tony, apparently.
it.
Well, Tony's dead.
Yeah, I forgot to write that in there. I'm sorry. I'll add that.
Tony died a long time ago.
So right now, as it stands, someone has 8 days after the dissolving of town meeting to say they want to put this to a vote.
Yeah,
Well, they have to get signatures.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get 6% of all the registered voters in town. I didn't change the substance. I only changed the
Where do you think 6% came from?
oh, here it is, right here.
I don't know.
Powers that be.
I have no idea. Sean might know. Or Steve might know, but Steve's not in yet.
I'm sorry, what?
She asked why 6% of the voters, where that number came from.
Who knows?
I don't remember a referendum in my time, so.
Let's see. If the circuit was on there, when you legislative order, check.
Kind of like a Proposition 2.5, but on a town-wide basis,
Yeah.
right?
All right, well, this is just to let you know, just to kind of give you a little bit of a history. This is a story that goes back to 1998 that the Standard Times had done regarding the powers that be in Dartmouth. And this is at the time when the school building committee was part, the high school building committee, and they were talking about the upsurge. They were talking about Peter Kavanaugh, who was the chairman of the high school building committee. And one attorney says, who does work in Dartmouth, said that Mr. Kavanaugh appears to be coming in his own. The upsurge in Mr. Kavanaugh's power was evident recently when he alleged in the civil lawsuit that resident tax opponent Anton Correa had sought a job in exchange for supporting a new high school, a charge that Correa denies and many townspeople doubt. He says a town meeting member and frequent public speaker, Mr. Correa, now in his 80s, has rankled the power at town hall for decades with his referendum drives and call for reform. Several runs at selectmen, has never been elected. Nevertheless, his Dartmouth Taxpayers Association espouses restrained tax spending that has broad support in town, where the new high school passed by a mere 39 votes and several other similar plans foundered. Mr. Correa's dogged style wins admiration in unexpected quarters. One current school committee member who supports the new high school and who asked not to be named said that although Mr. Correa lacks finesse, his initiatives have saved towns millions. His approach may be a little bit on the negative side, but he's positive in his results. So basically, that's what this is. This portion of the charter, to be honest with you, the charter we had, the initial charter, I don't think was done back in 98, correct? Or am I wrong?
No, it was 2000.
Okay, so this referendum language was added to the charter because it was something that could be done no matter what. And I guess through town meeting or through some kind of machinations through the state, through some type of general bylaw that the state had, or through town meeting time or something. So it was only used by Tony or by anybody if there was something passed at town meeting that he did not like or felt that it should be addressed townwide. It was used, I don't remember exactly how many times Tony had used it, but if I recall,
But you are correct.
but
His
if
nickname
I
was
recall, I
Referendum
think he was
Corner.
kind of like 50-50. He won some, lost some. But he did cause an awful lot of angst because there was the couple ones he lost was something that was actually beneficial for the town. And he was just being obstinate.
Do we know how many registered voters there are in town?
Oh, God, yeah,
I think it was over 20,000, right?
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
if you had asked me that 3 months ago, I'd know exactly.
They still don't know how many registered voters there are in the United States.
Easy, Sean.
This is the
I
same.
know, let's not
Oh,
go
I know,
there.
I know.
We don't need any marches on town hall.
No, I'm not just saying.
Maybe we
mean-
could find out what kinds of things this could apply to for the next meeting. We don't have to do this tonight, but it would be good to know. It sounds like this could be applied to a building project. At first, when Anthony said it was a citizens referendum, I thought it had to be something brought by a citizen, but obviously the new school building was not a citizens referendum. So it would be good to know what this.
Well,
would-
no. This is strictly any type of a vote taken by town meeting that passes and that somebody objects to.
Yep,
This
sort
is
of-
only on town meeting. This can't be something that the select board makes and then the town. No, this is strictly town meeting.
Okay.
All right, so let's put
Because
it,
it says it, I mean, if you read it
town
right here,
meeting,
yeah, I'm sorry,
town
if you
meeting-
read it right here in section A, a vote that is passed at any town meeting that authorizes the expenditure of at least $220,000 as a special appropriation, that's where this clicks in. So it's strictly town meeting, it's strictly a limit of 220,000 or basically $250,000. And then that's when the petition could be, the referendum, if he gets the petition within the next number of days.
okay. So if this was written about something that passes at town meeting, can there be something that does not pass?
No,
So it's only for something that goes forward.
right, because the linchpin is the appropriation of $220,000.
It's essentially,
Yeah, $220,000.
it's essentially asking the voters to veto action taken by town meeting.
Right.
What it is.
Because if something fails at town meeting, it can be brought back the next town meeting.
Sean, or either Sean, do we know if this is something that other towns have in their charter as well? Is this something that we're state mandated to have in our charter since only this Tony guy used it? You know, is this,
I'm almost positive this is in town meeting. This could be in town meeting times.
okay,
Because I'll be honest with you, it was, I mean, this was done before the charter, the town charter. So there was
Right.
there was a mechanism somewhere down here that could be done. I mean,
Mary, I can check into that. It might be that
Okay.
there's,
I'm
it
trying to,
might
I'm
be that
looking up
there's
town
a
meeting times
procedure
now.
by statute. And this, our home rule petition by doing our charter, we wrote in basically language that was in the statute, our procedure that was in the statute. I don't know. I can check
Right.
on it.
okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Of course, you have to pay for it.
I have it, but I didn't bring it home with me. Town
Um,
meeting time, Sean? I don't have it. with
Yeah.
me.
Oh.
All
I
right,
think it's
I-
online, isn't it online? I think.
No.
I
I've
think I-
got it here, but it says there's a 6-minute video, and there's a citizen's guide, the law about it, town meeting and outline. But if
One
you
of the
need
few-
town meeting times, the town meeting moderators, the Massachusetts Moderators Association wants you to pay for it.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so I have put a hold on A. And if we look at B, B is where we get into the 6%. You know, that you'd have to get 6% of the voters to agree. And you have 21 days. There's a timeline here which is about when the vote has to be set. So the second is still about the referendum petition, and then C is about a special election. My question for C, in a special election, would we need to accommodate early voting? Or is a special election, we can say happens on this particular day?
I mean, day of the week or just day of the year?
I guess, day of the year. So if we have a special town meeting that's set for Tuesday, May 1st, can we, now with early voting, who decides which elections get early voting and which do not? Oh,
I think
Steve, I just want to say Steve Mello has joined us. He is the 40U municipal something.
No, that's
Municipal hearing officer.
That was your last meeting.
borrowed computer, sorry.
All right, no problem. But Steve now is here. Okay. So,
I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know if that's what I mean, we're obviously in a landscape where that's all changing anyway, almost
Mm.
daily. So I don't know if that applies to these special elections as well. I don't think that's something that needs to be addressed in the charter. That's the clerk and the
okay.
the
Was that
statute.
voted in just for the pandemic, or was it voted in forever?
Early
Yeah.
voting voted in.
I thought that was for the pandemic.
Oh no, early voting's been around for the last few elections.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, I think we're talking about the early voting that was done this year, right?
Early voting at all. And I know it was prior to pandemic, we did have early voting. I just didn't know, and maybe it's not for us, but I just didn't know there's a cost that comes in, is incurred with extending the voting period. So on a special election, I just didn't know if we had the ability to say that it happens on this day. You can still do an absentee ballot, but I'm just saying, like, as far as that, is there some directive that it's early voting is for federal elections, national elections, state elections, not local elections? I didn't know if there was any guidance on that.
I mean, again, that's a changing landscape. I'm not sure that there's something
Okay.
we need to put into the charter
All right.
itself about our elections. Because if we put it in and we're stuck with it for 10 years, I mean, who knows? We might be voting by Zoom someday, so.
Mhm. Does anyone have anything to say about B? To me is still tied up in the A referendum, and C is something.
Nope, I'm all set.
we could have a special election on something that was not a referendum to fill a vacancy or something, so.
But it would only be on expenditure over 220,000.
So this special election is just regarding the referendum vote.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Have we ever had a special election to fill a vacancy?
No, we do it the next town
Office?
election. No, we do it at the next town election.
Okay, okay.
Okay, just to let you know, under Massachusetts General Law, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 43A, Section 10, it says, a vote passed at any representative town meeting authorizing the expenditure of $20,000 or more as a special appropriation, or establishing a new board or office, or abolishing an old board or office, or merging two or more boards or offices, or fixing the term of office of town offices where such term is optional, or increasing or reducing the number of members of a board, or adopting a new bylaw, or amending an existing bylaw shall not be operative until after the expiration of 7 days, exclusive of Sundays and holidays, from the dissolution of the meeting. If within 7 days, a petition signed by not less than 3% of the registered voters in town, containing their names, addresses as they appear on the list of registered voters, is filed with the selectmen, asking the question or questions involved in such a vote be submitted to a registered voters of the town at large, then the selectmen, after the expiration of 5 days, shall forthwith call a special meeting for the sole purpose of presenting to the registered voters at large the question or questions so involved. The polls shall be open at 2:00 in the afternoon and shall be closed not earlier than 8:00 in the evening. And all votes upon any questions shall be submitted shall be taken by ballot. The checklist shall be used for several precinct meetings in the same manner as the election of town officers. The questions so submitted shall be determined by a majority vote of the registered voters or the town voting thereon, but no action of the representative town meeting shall be reversed unless at least 20% of the registered voters shall vote. Each question so submitted shall be in the form of a following question, which shall be placed on the ballot. Shall the town vote to approve the action of the representative town meeting whereby it was voted, and then fill in the description. If such petition is not filed within said period of 7 days, the vote of the representative town meeting shall become, in other words, it's state law.
So we incorporated and made some changes to.
Yeah, I mean, $20,000 in today's money, really? Yeah, the 200. Yeah, you gotta. There's a threshold. You had to increase the threshold. So it's, if you need to look at it, Mass General Law, Chapter 43A, Section 10. God, I was like, we're just 4 days.
In something like that, should we note the Mass General Law that it's related to?
No, because it's not the same.
Home rule petition, we can change how our government.
Right. That's the reason for the charter. The reason for the charter is not, the reason for the charter is to no longer go to the state legislature to have everything approved that the town meeting approved. That's what that is. Basically, it's no longer relying on the state of Massachusetts, the Attorney General's office and the state legislature to approve what you have done in some instances. Now it's just the AG's office. And that's only to basically make sure that it falls within the parameters of state law and is legal.
So it's within our right to change the money, to change the number of days and the percentage of signatures
Yes.
required.
Yeah.
And I think it's all set.
Yeah. I mean, 220,000,
An accurate statement, Anthony?
Sorry, I was reading. What, could you repeat what
Sorry.
there's?
I was saying that it's within our right then in this section to change the money levels, to increase the percentage needed of signatures to get it
Yes,
on the
yeah, it's a
ballot.
home rule. We can change how our government behaves, because that's the whole nature of a charter is by default, we behave a certain way, but we can change the way we run our government through the charter.
So then I don't see a reason for a hold on this article.
I mean, let me say, this was, I'm not sure what exactly this was put in, whether this was changed 10 years ago.
It is in the 2000 document that I have as a
So
reference.
as written as is, 220,000?
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I'm one of those guys that like, I kind of like evenish numbers, like 220. Well, why not increase it to like 250,000, $250,000, at least, easier to talk about. I like quarters, 500s, 3/4 million, that type of money. I don't like $10.98. I like $11.
Like 5/16. I think that's a good.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And this was 20 years ago, so maybe it could even be larger, Sean. You're
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I mean,
Do we need to go metric?
no, the dollar system isn't, our currency isn't metric yet.
All
Yeah,
right, so I am going to keep the hold and put about possibility increasing the money value. And then when we go back and look at all the holes, it'll give us an idea how many changes we're willing to make. So I think at this point, we can all pull up if you can find it. If not, I'll resend it. Article 3, and we'll start on that one. Article 3 was sent out. I will tell you if you can look it up.
The 31st of
I
December.
think December 31st.
I got that one.
Okay, so pull up Article 3, everybody, and we'll take it from the
Yeah.
top.
Here we go.
All right, so it looks like the first comment is important. This is the time to have a discussion about whether any of these should be changed to appointed positions. So let's just start in A.
You speak, Sean.
Are any of these? I will say that I have been approached. About a couple of boards now that I'm looking at it. And I think the discussion is how are we getting the right people involved in our boards to move our agencies forward?
Right, and one of the concerns is nobody will run for election.
Right,
But for instance, the planning board, there was an open seat. 3 people came to the select board and put their names in. I can't remember the last time I saw a challenge for a planning board seat. Or 2 people running against each other. Maybe there has been in the recent past, but
There will be this year.
yeah, but it's fair, it's far and few between.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get maybe well, actually, he's running this year. There's a doctor running for Board of Health, but you might get a doctor who's interested in the Board of Health, but is not willing to, or for some reason, doesn't want to run townwide for
The last,
election.
the last doctor on the Board of Health was John Bullock.
No, what's her name?
Oh, no, there was, what was her name?
Gail Davidson.
Gail
Thank you.
Davidson, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
She was only my next door neighbor. I couldn't pull up her name on my map. I'm getting old.
At least I forgot her name. That would be my neighbor. Well,
Okay.
let me just throw this out and
And I'm not saying you need it. That's not the comment, because there might be somebody who's not.
let me just throw this out. Personally, I think the planning board, Parks and Rec, and the Board of Assessors should be appointed. Board of Health,
And
entirely different, I think. Library Board of Trustees. One selectman had said something about that.
again, I'm going to go back to, rather than, is what is the direction of these boards? And are we able to move as a town in the direction that we need to when a board is appointed or elected?
Sean, in your prior town, were there this many elected boards?
No, I think I mean, in my experience, it's been less, the migration's been away from elected boards towards appointed. Most towns, I mean, I think you see it in town government, it's more of a consolidation mode than, a decentralization. So you generally, the select board's elected and they appoint all the other boards. Anthony talked about it, and you have to think about it too. There's just not a lot of participation in municipal government anymore. And I don't know if it's a generational thing or there's just not like a civic mindedness to generations coming up. And maybe that's going to change, maybe not. I think with the digital age, it's got the potential for more people to get involved via Zoom, where they don't have to kind of carve out hours of their evening to be at a town building. So, but it's something to think about. So I generally like to think about it. Well, you look at the past elections and, how many races have there been? And then you look at appointments to committees, even appointments, like how many people are seeking appointments to boards and committees? We have a bylaw committee, great example. We can't find anybody that wants to be on it. So nobody wants to be involved. And that bylaw committee is just like the charter review committee we have here. They need to be review the town bylaws every 5 years. Nobody wants to be on it. So something to think about. So when you have situations like this, is it better to consolidate and, manage with, just like we talked about with the town meeting members? Is it better to reduce the size to get more involvement, or you keep it large and you kind of live with what you have, and so it's not as competitive? That's for the committee here to think about.
How does changing the Board of Assessors from elected to appointed solve the problem that you just outlined?
Well,
might get.
they're annual appointments.
What?
If they're annual appointments, then the select board reviews it every year. So if you have a member that's not involved, or a member that, is not aligned, we just talked about some of these candidates that are they do their own thing just to kind of throw a wrench at things. And if they're not, the select board is kind of the fathers of the town, and they set the policy and the direction of the town, and they want the Board of Assessors to be go in a certain direction. They influence that. So more voters are just relying on the select board to manage the town.
I think we need more information in this section before we can discuss it. And the information that I think we need is what have been the races, what have been the competitive races, who has run. I think that I went to the website today just to see what races were coming up. There's no way to know where the openings are unless you click
Right.
on every single board and look, and most of them don't even have the expiration dates on them. So I think we need a lot more information before we can get into what, I felt comfortable discussing the town clerk position moving only because that person came before us every year asking for certain things, and it didn't make any sense why that department was treated differently than any other department. But I'm not hearing, and I have a concern about everything being appointed by the select board with no checks on that. I don't think the town meeting will support that kind of a model without more information. I think we need to have more information. So I don't know how we can get it, Sean. I hate to add another thing to the list, but I feel like we need more information before we can move forward.
No, sure. So, the clerk, we have a committee database that we can develop a report that shows all the open positions. But yeah, you're right, Terry. And it's not something you take lightly. I think, people, this is when we talked about having the workshops for the public to have them have some input, but we need to put some data together that shows, yeah, it sounds like, you want a more open form of government and keep it, and that's the perfect form of government, but no one's involved. So is it really the best way to do things? Or, or they haven't been, or maybe they have been historically, and we're just thinking they haven't been. So we'll pull information together.
And the other thing is, just because somebody is appointed doesn't make them a rubber stamp of the select board. I mean, look at the ZBAs over the number of years. There was a lot of disputes, if you will, between the ZBA and the select board. So it's not simply to create a rubber stamp. It's also to get more involvement, because a lot of people, whenever there's an opening for the ZBA, you see 3 or 4 people come forward and ask to be involved. And those same 3 or 4 people might not have wanted to run for a position. Really that's what I've noticed.
Or perhaps the town might be able to do a better job in terms of how the website is laid out, in terms of communication, in terms of education, and making data available to the general public. I think I agree with Terry. There's a lot more stuff we need to find out.
Yeah, and to Anthony's point, I think you see this year during COVID, there's been a lot of boards of health that are appointed that really butted heads and pushed back on their select boards, because they thought things should be handled differently, and they handled them differently. But I think you saw that a lot in the paper and in the news, that just because they were appointed did not mean they were a rubber stamp. So there was a lot of pushback. So which was good.
Well, I think as we go forth, I'm gonna keep a hold on A, because as we go through the sections and read more about each of these boards or positions, we may have more questions or a better understanding about which direction we want to go in.
And Heidi, back to the question that you asked, I don't know how we would know, other than a person's opinion, which, that and $3.25 will get me a cup of coffee, my opinion. But I don't know how we would know which departments are moving the town forward and not. How are we going to make that? I think we need that. That's a very good question, but how do we answer it?
Well, and I wasn't sure if that was something that we could either get the information by having, whoever is in charge of the boards speak to it, the pros and the cons.
I mean, the finance committee is beginning to ask departments, what are they moving forward on, just as part of our process, the finance committee, and we can get some of that information, but for this committee to know, the Board of Assessors hasn't really appeared in front of us. We've had the assessor come and talk to us about what they do, but in terms of the Board of Assessors, I don't know how they guide or don't guide that department. I have, more information just interacting with the library or interacting with like the Board of Health. I kind of know what they do. Parks and Rec. We have liaisons on the Finance Committee to some of the bigger departments, and we can bring information back based on that experience. But that's a big question to answer.
May I just ask a question? Do boards have to be in total? Do they have to be all elected or all appointed, or can there be a mixture?
We have a mixture now.
We have
Oh, no,
one
I
that
think he
has a
means,
mixture, right?
I think he means for one board.
He's talking about one single board, correct?
One board, yes.
No,
In
I
other
think
words,
they
2
have to be
people
the-
elected and 1 person appointed?
I've never
Yeah,
seen.
have a
Oh,
couple
God,
elected
no,
and
no, that doesn't, no, no. Who would appoint that? Who would be in charge of appointing that person?
You have ad hoc
well,
people.
that's what we'd have to discuss.
Yeah, you have some boards that have ad hoc members that are by virtue appointed by the position, but or ex officio, but
Right, but that one, not to any elected board that I'm aware of.
right.
Only to appointed boards.
The only board I think is like that, believe it or not, is the Housing Authority, because is what the people we vote in the town, and then there's a governor's appointment. That's the only one, and I think that's by statute, state statute.
Well, David, what was behind your question of having a mixed board, one, some elected and some appointed?
Well, I was just thinking like on the event that we had this past year where we had an elected person, but then they just left and we couldn't just make an appointment right away. We had to, talk about that. Maybe we could say, that in a situation or something like that, there can be an appointment made. If you have the Board of Health or whatever it was that you can't get people into, then we just say, okay, and in this case, we can, after trying so long to get somebody into the board, we can't get anybody then elected, then we just go in and appoint someone.
Well, that did just happen with the zoning board, I believe. John Souza retired and the select board and planning board, I'm sorry, it was the planning board that happened with. So in that case, you have an elected board, somebody leaves, and then it becomes an appointed position for the remainder of their term.
Actually, not to the remainder of the term, until the next annual election.
Okay.
And I
So,
think that's covered
The
in,
3-year term, I think there's 3 years left to John's position, but he's on the other gentleman that was appointed is only there until April, and then there'll be an election for that position to fill out the term.
and we have some of that in, we talk about that in section 3-1H. So when we get to that, we'll make sure we're, so I'm putting elected town officials on, just on hold as we go through, because right now we list them all and we want to make sure that we have, we are continuing with those same or changing. So if we look at B, other offices filled at town elections, in addition to elected town officials, enumerated above, members of housing authority as well as any other officers or representatives to regional authorities or districts as shall be established by law or by interlocal agreement may also be filled by ballot at town elections. So my question would be, and way back in 2000, this is how it was separated. Why isn't the housing authority in section A? And then B is just talking about representatives to regional boards.
Do housing authority members need to be residents?
Except for the mayor's appointment, right? I mean, the governor's appointment, is that right?
I'm not sure. I know they kind of fall under a different set of guidelines sometimes, so maybe that's why it's,
Okay,
but we'd have to look into that.
but my understanding was all these folks elected or appointed have to be residents of the town.
Well, if it's is it a regional housing authority or a?
No, it's the Dartmouth Housing Authority. They're all town residents.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there are other appointments that people fill, like I'm thinking about the New Bedford Vocational School Committee. We have a seat for a person from Dartmouth to sit on that committee.
That's
There's
why,
a few other like
why,
SPEC and stuff. We have someone from Dartmouth that sits on those committees.
yeah, but that's by the agreement between the three
The
municipalities.
regionals, right. So we don't address any of those. These are all town boards that we're talking about within this document,
Yeah, the school committee appoints the two voc reps.
right?
And just to let you know, there are 5 members of the Housing Authority, 4 which are elected, and 1 is a state appointee. and Brock is the state appointee.
Hmm.
And his term expires this year.
Sean McDonald, were you on the select board in the last town charter? I'm looking at the vote, the election results then.
I've been on since 2010.
Okay, so maybe not, but there was a non-binding question that asked this question about elected versus representatives. I'm sorry, elected versus appointed, consolidate, mayor, et cetera. It's hard for me to understand what the outcome was, but as it was a non-binding question, I'm wondering if anything happened with that information. Did any?
That was, I believe what it was, is they were finding the tenor of how town meeting, or there was something that the select board put on to find the tenor as to how, what the appetite was.
Right.
And then that led the charter commission to wherever they needed to go. Whether they wanted to keep town, keep the system the way it is, or go to a different type of government like mayor, city council.
And they pretty much said they wanted to keep it as it is, right?
For now, yeah. And that was kind of, I'm not going to say it was, it definitely wasn't 50-50. It was more like 60-40. Some people had, I'll be honest with you, you probably could have had, if you spoke to 10 people, 3 would tell you, keep it the way it is. 3 would tell you, no, we need to change it. And 4 would say, what's the form of government in the town?
I can scan this after the meeting and send it to you so that you can look at it and see what the results were. Just
I can also say, from my recollection, is that, for better or worse, I think you guys talk about getting whatever changes we come up with, getting resident buy-in, getting town meeting buy-in. This was kind of thrust upon town meeting without much discussion ahead of time. And I think that's why there was some kickback. It was clearly, at that point, no, some people use the word power grab. Okay, so it wasn't a power grab because I was involved in some of the discussions behind the scenes, but it was a behind the scenes discussion that suddenly went to town meeting, and some people thought it was a power grab by the select board. And it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of good communication. I think that was one of the reasons for some of the kickback. I think what happened 10 years ago is certainly, something to talk about, but I don't think it should ultimately guide this committee on, I don't think it should tell us which direction we should go. I think we should make our own independent decision. Lots happened in 10 years.
Gone away. I think that problem still exists from.
Yeah, it does. I mean, basically, I can tell you this. People want us, the select board, to solve a lot of problems. They want, how they come to us. Why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't, how can this happen? And then we tell them what we can and cannot do, and they're going to say, well, who do I go to?
I'm not talking.
Well, everybody comes to us.
Yeah.
And then we have to kind of push, show them where to go.
Yeah, don't
No.
misunderstand.
So
me.
they're gonna ask, as somebody once famous said, they ask you to cook the meal, but they're not letting you shop for the groceries.
So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this is a problem with the select board. I'm saying the problem that exists that Anthony described of a lack of communication, lack of information, lack of kind of letting people know what's going on. My opinion is that still exists. I don't know what the solution is, but I think that it continues to be a problem.
People,
One woman's opinion.
people,
Are you quoting
no,
Bill
I mean, it's a good opinion, because I'll be honest with you, most people in town don't know the machinations of the town government unless they need to get involved or something happens to them that gets them involved. And then all of a sudden they get involved and it's like, oh, really? Wow. Huh. Other than
But at the
that,
same,
if it
but
doesn't bite them in the butt, if it doesn't affect their daily lives, if it doesn't cause them any duress or any other kind of things, everybody else, they just go along, do what they need to do.
right, but at the same time, we don't want to get into a spot that people only run for office or only wish to be appointed for personal, because they have a personal agenda, a personal gain through that board.
You cannot, that you can't stop in elected. that in itself, an elected position, you have absolutely no way to stop somebody from just doing that on their own. The voters do whether they vote them in or not. But through an appointment, that type of thing could be vetted out better than anything else. I mean, if let's put it this way, if John Q. Public, who has had conservation violations for a number of years, come up, and then all of a sudden, his name appears on the wish list of people wishing to be appointed to the Conservation Commission. Flag, by many violations, wants to be on the commission. Yeah, I think that's not a good fit.
You can have a perennial offender in town who's get contempt complaints against him and everything, and then runs for a position in the neighboring town and gets elected. And I'm sure nobody over there even knew half of the issues that this man has.
So one of the things I have, as we kind of do research, can we get comparable towns and see what positions they have, just again, as part of a reference to say, like, if Needham has, the assessors are appointed versus, it'd be good, instructive to say, like, okay, well, these other 5 towns that are in our region are doing it this way. But with that said, Sean, does school committee tend to be elected? I mean, that's my impression, that it tends to be
Yeah, they're elected. School
Yeah.
committee's elected.
Yeah.
School committee is equivalent to a board of selectmen.
That's
You
what I
wouldn't have
figured.
a,
No, I didn't think so.
you wouldn't have an appointed school committee. I don't believe you can, but I haven't
Yeah,
looked at
yeah,
that, but
that's
I've never heard of it.
I agree with Mary's comments. I think on some of these things, we need a little bit of guidance from what other people in other towns are doing. So he has some kind of frame of reference, and whether some of them have been successful or unsuccessful for whatever reason.
I've put that down in my notes for the possible use of that group from UMass. So I have 3 possible tasks, but I'm going to go back to Article 3-1, Section A, and just looking back, I just want to make sure the cemetery commission, which is not, it was removed the last time, that's been absorbed into Parks and Rec. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The town agent was also in the 2000 charter and is
Gone,
where is the town agent
gone.
does not exist.
What
Position
was
does not
a,
exist.
what was a town agent, just out of curiosity?
Okay, folks, here's a little history. Stan Frollo was our last town agent. Town agent would be an individual that was appointed or elected at one point in time. I think at one time it was elected, but then it became an appointed position.
It was elected within this 2000.
Okay, so it was elected. Say David Cunha is driving down Slocum Road and all of a sudden hits a giant pothole and busts a tire. David Cunha would file a complaint with the town regarding the pothole and wants $350 for a new tire, new hub, and rack and pinion on the right side of his vehicle. The town agent would take a look at that, look and inspect it, and say yay or nay. That's the town agent.
An insurance adjuster.
Do all of the elected positions have to be listed here? I don't see youth commission. Are there other elected versus appointed? Do we have to enumerate?
This is just the elected executive. This is elected officials.
Executive branch only.
Yeah.
We are in Article 3 elected officials.
Okay. So, appointed
So, but I do wonder if at some point there should be notation about all the boards that we do have going on, including all appointed boards.
We're in another section, I believe. Hold on.
I don't think you should notify, I don't think you should list all appointed boards because that changes.
Yeah, that comes.
Some are standing, some are.
So, and along those lines, I know Terry, you had asked, so we have a board and committee database. I have a copy of it that probably it's like a few months old, but it has a report, a vacancy report. So I just printed that out just so you can see, and I emailed it to you all, so you can kind of take a look at
Okay.
Thank
the
you.
number of committees we have in place. I mean, not all those are active anymore, but a lot of them are. and you can see they have the max number and then the number of vacancies. So,
And again, to
I guess
Terry's point before, it's important that that information is out there, because if somebody wants to get involved, they should know what possible boards they could be useful to.
mhm.
I have a question in terms of language. Are we, in going back to what David Kunis had said before, you know, is there language to say that, and am I missing, I just have to, that when there is a vacancy, then we don't have a seat filled, that we can fill it? Is that in C? And I'm not.
In H.
H, oh, okay, thanks.
But
So, and I'll just say the newest
right.
board that was not included in the 2000 charter that is listed here is the Dartmouth Historical Commission. At the very end, we have an added board, which would be 313. So let's go back up to section A, we're holding.
Yeah.
B, we got that, I'm not really sure that we're sorted out on why Housing Authority is listed here, except that Housing Authority does have a member that's appointed and the rest of them do not. That may be
Well,
the reason why it's under B.
I think it has to do with the language of it, which says basically regional districts established by law or interlocal agreement.
Okay, and then eligibility. That's section C.
Confusing.
That's fine as is.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody should hold two elected positions and nobody should be appointed and then elected.
Can I say one thing?
Unless you're appointed as a member of a committee as a representative of the committee, like me, like Heidi, well, not technically Heidi.
No.
Like Mary.
Mhm.
Sean, I shared your position on that until recently. Another town I represent, they were having issues with the Board of Health and they could not get anybody, and that's an appointed board. So one of the select board members very reluctantly said, all right, fine, I'll do it. Until we get this thing straightened out, I'll do it. And he's the best member of the Board of Health, very active. He's also a select board member. Again, it wasn't because he was out there, again, power grabbing or looking to have a lot of positions. It was just, they needed somebody in there to try to help straighten some things out.
Yeah, but how would you?
Just a thought. I'm not saying it's,
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. Well, I mean, I think this is Swansea, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything in their charter that allows them to do that?
They don't have a charter.
They don't have a charter, so.
Yeah.
So then they would.
There's nothing prohibiting it, because I looked at it.
Nothing prohibiting it, but did they petition the general court?
Nope, I looked at
did
the
it.
issue.
Well, if it's not in conflict with Mass General Law, they wouldn't even have to go in that direction.
Right.
Right, but it's in conflict with our charter. I'm not saying to change it. I'm just saying it's just something to think about.
Where we have,
It's something I never would have thought about before.
where we having a difficult time filling some of these boards, are we cutting off our own nose to do this? I mean, and I know
It's
you,
been- has this been since the initial of the charter?
Yes.
Yeah, so 20 years.
Sean, you don't want to be on the planning board too?
No. And nothing against Steve. I'm looking at the thing. I don't even know if Steve's here.
He's not.
Okay, then everything against Steve. No. No.
All right, I'm gonna say we're okay with C. And I guess if the town got into a bind and felt that it needed to do this, it would have to take a vote saying that they were in conflict.
You have to amend the charter.
Dispensation.
Well, yeah, I think, but I don't know, maybe you can get an opinion from town council and then talk to, I guess, maybe an opinion from, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to
If it's a
move,
major
I'm gonna
board,
keep
if it's a major
moving
board.
us, 'cause it's already 7:15. D, town election, that section was deleted back in 2015. And E, which had to do with ballot position, the name of candidates for each elective municipal office, including the office of town meeting member, including candidates for re-election to the same office, shall be arranged alphabetically according to their surnames beneath the name of office, incumbents first. And that was moved to section 6.
Yeah, so we don't even have to
So
deal
we
with
will
that.
see it in another spot. Compensation, elected town officials shall receive such compensation for their services as may be appropriated annually for such purpose.
Might as well leave it in because,
But right now, no one is compensated, am I correct?
except the town clerk, when she was elected.
Okay,
She's still
but
technically,
she's still paid.
Technically, there is a salary out there for an elected town clerk. But we have an interim town clerk who's, so unless,
Getting paid.
right, unless if town meeting, if the voters approve the appointed town clerk's position in April, then it would be the other boards that are elected that right now that have no appropriation.
So if
She
in
is
April,
the,
I'm
just,
just,
she is the town clerk appointed to the elected position. So she is holding an elected position even though she wasn't elected, just the same as the gentleman on the planning board is holding an elected position even though he was appointed by the board.
Right.
So she is the town clerk.
so, but of all these positions, even now, that position was the only one that had compensation.
Correct.
Not always, not always. Select board
No,
used to get paid.
I mean,
Right.
in recent.
And that's an ongoing battle. And that's was one of the things you're talking about, people not wanting to fill positions. That's another, that comes up annually at town meeting. It's often
Yeah, I
discussed.
mean, it was 2,000 for the select board. It was
Was that long ago?
$250 for planning, $250 for Board of Health. I don't think the Library Board of Trustees got anything. Park Board didn't get anything. School Department didn't get anything.
And does anybody know why the stipend or whatever you would call it, people were being paid was withdrawn? Or
It was
whatever?
during the financial problem
Boom.
from years ago.
What, 2008, around
Yeah.
that time?
Yeah, I believe so.
I-
Because I've been on the board since 2010. I don't get paid.
Mary, I like your friend.
I know, I have a lot of friends.
I'll only say like, I
Yeah.
remember years ago, I did some research on this, compensated elected and appointed officials, and there's arguments both ways. And some municipalities pay their appointed or elected officials like significant money, like, well, I won't say significant, say $10,000 a year, but they're also benefit eligible. And what happens is, I guess it's a sort of an incentive. So it might be something worth looking at where if you're not getting participation, maybe you look at it and there's some form of compensation, but maybe and also, I don't know, this is something we can, the town, the charter review committee can talk about, the select board is, can we get more participation if we're offering some sort of stipend that's somewhat significant, or where there could be benefit eligible if they participated? Does it
Well-
incentivize people to be more civic minded, or does it incentivize them to just get health insurance and some payments? So
I was on, well, I wasn't on, but I was involved in town politics in Warwick in Rhode Island. And that had a population of about, I think about 100,000 people. And they had a town council type of government with a mayor. And the people on town council used to get $12,000 a year and benefits,
yeah.
health
So
benefits.
when I was doing that research, it really varied from $250 a year to $10,000 to $15,000 a year with benefits. So
The last select person in town that had health benefits was Bob Connie,
when was that?
a while ago.
He was a select board member in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that the town would have an appetite for increasing financial compensation of anyone.
I'm with you.
Um, And I think that that is always something we're looking for when we're hiring bodies, is what the benefit package is going to cost, and you
Yeah.
know, still, we're still fighting the, what is it, 4852?
Come on, 54, 46.
Oh, all right,
Come on,
54,
come on,
46.
let's go. Don't start spreading bad rumors.
What is 5446 or
That
whatever?
contribution, the town pays 54% of the health insurance and the employee pays, unless they're on the high deductible plan, which.
And
the
it's
health
60/40.
And it's 60/40 with a contribution to the health savings account. Should I go into that in detail? I'd be happy to.
No, don't.
No,
There goes our last 10 minutes.
I mean, I can tell you, this is my 11th year on the select board. I had 15 years on the school committee. I had 3 years on the park board, all elected positions. I never took a single dime from any single one of them, with the exception of the park board, and it was expense money. It was gas money, basically, for all intents and purposes, and that was $200 a year. So driving to and back and forth through the parks, driving to do planting trees in October. Yeah, that mileage kind of went up pretty good, but other than
well, I
that,
do think when we go through this, it has power, each of these sections have powers and duties, and we're certainly not going to get through any of them tonight. So your homework is now going to be to look at this more in depth, and to look at, should we include any within the powers and duties, that that anyone is eligible for compensation. Not individually, but for in the work that they're doing, if they're traveling to do something, if they're, I'm just looking if there's something that,
no, I think section F is fine the way it
I do
is.
too.
I do
Okay.
not want to, don't put any kind of compensation in any of the other things, because the compensation, elected town officials shall receive such compensation for their services as may be appropriated annually for such purposes. So if they want it, they have to ask for it, and then it has to be approved. If they don't get it, then that's what it is. That's how that works, and that's the way it should be worked. It shouldn't be in the body of each one saying that the select board shall receive compensation. I mean, reimbursements, that's entirely different, especially for out of pocket, because you have to prove it, you have to show it, and you have to request it.
Heidi, before we move on, can I just go back to the beginning and say, I'm trying to preempt a conversation that ends up talking about opinions rather than facts. I think before any case is made to move an elected board to an appointed board, we need to know why. I think town meeting members are going to want to know why. Is it poor performance, and how is that measured? Or is it vacancies that aren't filled? What is the purpose, other than people think it's a good idea? Because the people thinking that it's a good idea is going to get us nowhere, I think.
I do not think it's our place to talk about the performance of a particular board.
That's right. So I don't know where we
Right.
get, but I think there has to be a case made to the town meeting members. And it can't just be an opinion.
I would second that.
One of the ways to judge that would be, it's going to be a Herculean task, but to show the attendance records. I can tell you right now, if you look at the attendance records of the Board of Assessors, generally for the good part, you'll probably only see 2 out of the 3 always showing up.
So in my mind, that would be a report from the select board saying, look at, this is how it's not working and this is why. And that's not about a person or.
Well, no, it shouldn't be the select board.
Oh.
Because because the Board of Assessors is an elected position. So it has to come from this committee. It can't be coming from the select board.
Attendance records, doesn't the select board get?
well, we can certainly look at that. We also talked about that in regard to town meeting members.
Yeah.
We can be looking at a way to inform the voters who is showing up.
But can I like interject there? I think that that also is something that, you know, may fit under recall. So, you know, as we kind of skim down to what is it? I don't know what the number is. I guess, or J.
Nobody, I
Yeah.
understand, Mary, but nobody's gonna go out and do all that legwork to recall somebody from the Board of.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but you know, I think the question will be, is there, you know, do we need to change the whole form because we have one person on one? I mean, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate. Like you know, that might be the question that we kind of have to anticipate that, you know, if there's one person who's not doing their due diligence, excuse me, on a committee, should we change the whole system? Again, I'm just saying, like, you know, I think that there's a point to be made for appointing, you know, members, and I understand the argument. Again, I guess I'm just kind of going back to what will be the counterpoints. If we
I think
have,
I think you look at how
Counterpoint would
many
be,
people run unopposed over the
yeah,
years.
and I think that's
Yeah.
a good point too.
but the
That's-
counterpoint is this, is that if you don't have a full committee, then you have only 2 people out of 3 deciding what
No,
goes
right.
all the time.
Yeah, and you would pretty much have to kill somebody to get recalled.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
if you also, if you look at I and see what you need, at least 2,000 registered voters signed by, including 15 from each precinct. I mean, that's a pretty high number.
threshold.
But
We
again,
need to change that too, yeah.
you know, I go back to, and I want us to process this. If there was a situation where we felt that someone needed to be removed
Mhm.
from a board because of their personal actions, and I'm going to use the January 6th attack of the US Capitol. If we knew of someone in Dartmouth that was there, and we found that their actions were flying in the face of what the democracy that we want to uphold in Dartmouth, how do we remove them from their position?
And Heidi, that was a point, I think it was Natick that had that same issue, what more the town meeting member, and they can't remove them because there's no place in the charter. So kind of anticipating that, you know, again, they had someone who was there who, again, town meeting, but their hands are tied.
It's a
So
slippery
that's,
slope too, because once you start doing that, you know, what else? If you spell out everything in the charter that you need to remove somebody by, you're gonna leave something out or get over inclusive.
Right. Well, I also think that there, you know, we have had someone elected to a town board that was during their, I think it was during their tenure on the board, was found to be guilty of a crime and sent to jail and had to be removed from the board.
Was it an elected board or an
Yes.
appointed? board?
select board, yeah.
He resigned.
Oh,
Oh,
He
zoning was,
resigned.
He resigned. Yeah.
he resigned because. he
And that
thought
would
we
be
got
the
elec-
appropriate thing to do.
Right.
But I guess.
I'm just
conversely,
looking at
if-
the situation in Natick where the person does not feel that they should need to resign.
That's where I was going. I mean, I don't think this is, well, I don't know how it's answerable, but if somebody's elected and they don't feel they should resign and there's no way to remove them, or it's so onerous, that you gotta get
Which
two
is the
thousand.
bar.
The town meeting members are so, I don't mean to sound, yeah, this might be a harsh term, but it's the only one that jumps to mind. They're inconsequential in comparison to town meeting members, inconsequential in comparison to the cost and the procedures of going through a recall election.
right.
I would agree with town meeting. However, we're looking now at elected boards.
Right, well, we have a recall provision for
Have a
these
recall for
elected.
that.
Okay.
But it's so onerous is what we're saying, that it's,
But you don't want to make it light either, that anybody can
Right.
do it all willy-nilly. That was the reason why they put those numbers in, to make it that if you're gonna, because you look at it, there's no reason, there's no specific reason for the recall that can be stated. It could be just a recall.
An allegation is a lot different than a conviction. A misdemeanor
Right.
offense is a lot different than a felony. I mean, you need to specify, I think.
So if we go in order, and now we're at 7:29, if we look up at G, which is coordination, notwithstanding their election by the voters for the purpose of coordinating the work of all town agencies, the town officials named in this section shall be subject to the call of the select board or the town administrator at all reasonable times for consultation, conference, and discussion on any matter relating to their respective offices or multiple member bodies. I just want to say, like, I think that we're in agreement of G. I just want to have like one more thing done tonight.
Yes.
Oh, you can
Yeah,
also.
I
that's
hit-
agree, that, I
That
agree,
sounds
that
good.
one's good.
You can also hit H.
Well, H leads into the
You can get rid
multiple
of H.
member body. I think we certainly can. The
We can start at I next time.
coordination. No, because H is, there's 3 sections to it,
Okay,
and we have this big
I thought that was an I.
affidavit. It's not, no. So we're gonna leave it there. And we will start with
H.
3-1H.
Okay,
And our next meeting is February 10th, which is 2 weeks from today. The 10th and the 24th of February, then the 10th and the 24th of March.
Okay.
You were at one of-
Look at that.
All right, and I am going to, is someone going to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Thank
I'll
you,
make a
Mary.
motion. Yep.
Okay.
I will second that.
Thank
Second.
you. Heidi Brooks, yes, adjourn. David Cunha,
Yes.
Terry,
Yep.
Sean McDonald,
Yes.
Steve Mello,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you all. Good meeting.